Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter, Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, like the videos, listen on Apple, Spotify, everywhere.
I'm telling you, that website we've been talking about, that other stuff we've been talking about, things are coming. Things are going to be happening.
It is coming. It is coming. But in the meantime, make sure you read that scoring criteria because we're going to talk MMA judging.
I don't want to talk MMA judging. It's not very interesting after this last card.
Oh, no, it definitely isn't, no.
No one was talking about it. We probably shouldn't talk about it.
This might be my favorite episode ever.
You know what? Once we got that first fight, which the first fight of the card had all 3 rounds were divided, but only on 8-9s. I said to myself, I'm like, Dan's going to love this one. He's just going to be so happy. Then, of course, it ends essentially the same way it began, with a 9-8 split, with Judge Mike Bell being the out judge in round 1 of the first fight, and then in round 5 of the final fight.
Yeah.
Cap the whole thing.
Yep. Some bookends there.
Mm-hmm. We'll, of course, get to the judging. We will actually do that. I was lying. I don't know if anybody knew that, but I was just telling fibs. But we got to get to the way that the ending of Noche UFC left us, and especially left the women's flyweight division. Dan, we've got a bit of a mess here now. It was a draw, as we all know. Alexa Grasso keeps the belt. Valentina Shevchenko, despite some little weirdness that led to this being the split draw, she is not the champion. But we also have 2 contenders in Erin Blanchfield and Manon Fiorot, who look both of which as very qualified to fight next, and yet neither of them might end up fighting next, which obviously creates a bunch of either issues or solutions. It depends on your perspective and that kind of thing. But before we even get to that part, I want to ask you, Dan, how did Grasso and Shevchenko each look relative to your expectations?
I thought they looked good. They looked like 1 and 2 in the division. Champion and 1. I thought Shevchenko fought good. I thought Grasso fought good. They met my expectations, I guess you could say.
Do you think that maybe Grasso might have solidified the idea that, hey, the first time her win over Shevchenko wasn't like fluky or anything like that? Because I think a lot of people still had some doubts. I mean, she did enter as the underdog, of course. So there were enough people who doubted her ability to win it again.
She proved she belonged, which we've seen that happen before when Frankie Edgar beat BJ Penn the first time. And then
Leon Edwards.
Yeah, and then the second time, everyone, oh no, that was just a fluke. They come back and they look really, really good. I mean, I don't think she looked really, really good, but she proved she belonged.
She looked on par, if nothing else, with Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what about Shevchenko? Do you think she looked as good as usual? Do you think that she had maybe some room that she could have done better? What do you think about her?
I guess it's that one sequence that I was like, oh, this is deja vu all over in the 5th when she got her back taken. It was like almost the exact same thing. And then her getting dropped, I guess, was a little bit off too.
Round 2, she tumbled like Heath Herring against Brock Lesnar.
Except she didn't get speared after.
No.
Like Brock did.
Well, see, that was the problem. Probably Grasso would have finished it if she went for the spear.
She should have. Yeah, I mean, I thought Shevchenko was good. I thought she was better than the last fight, but so was Grasso, so. It
definitely was a very good fight. It's one of the best women's flyweight fights that I can think of. It wasn't like it was like over the top amazing, but I thought it was a very good, entertaining fight, a memorable fight, even outside of the result, like the actual, scoring.
I was happy with that fight. It was a fun fight, unlike the first fight.
So what do you want to do with these women now? What do you want for both them and Blanchfield and Fiorot? What do you want? Not what the UFC wants. What do you want?
As tough of a situation as is, I think it worked itself out perfectly. I think you run Shevchenko and Grasso back, being that it was such a good fight. They shouldn't have any reservations about doing it immediately. And then we let Blanchfield and Fiorot settle it themselves. They fight each other in a 5-round fight, not a 3-rounder, and decide who gets the next crack.
What if they take, the last time we had this fight was, I believe it was February, right?
Okay.
The first fight was February, I think. What if we're waiting another 7 months or so to make that happen? Do you want this? I mean, I know you want things done quickly anyway, but like, do you think time should be more of a factor? Like if they can get 2 people together earlier? Is that what you do?
Ideally, I'd like them to fight. These two fights happen on the same card or in close time frame,
Okay.
so that they're kind of on a similar schedule. I don't know how long Shevchenko's thumb is going to take to heal. That could throw a wrench in everything, and maybe they have to make a fight before this rematch. Not really sure.
See, I'll tell you what, I would honestly, I know it's weird. And if they did do what you said, I get it. I totally do get it. But I kind of don't want them to do the immediate trilogy because I'm getting just me in general, I'm getting worn out by the same fighters fighting the same fighter for like a year and a half. It's just, I know we had some great fights between, the men's flyweight title fights with Figueiredo and Moreno. But man, that just got old. Like for me, it was just like I think we were done. I know they were great, but like there's so many other great fights you can also make with other individuals fighting each other. So if it was up to me, I actually wouldn't put Shevchenko next, but I would try to get whatever fight comes next quickly. Like maybe even January. They're talking about I think it sounds like they would like to have it in Canada. That seems to be where the rumors are pointing in January. I would like to get the women's flyweight title fight on that card, January. Grasso against, it probably would be Blanchfield. That would be my thinking.
Well, yeah, Blanchfield is. I think should be the one
of the two. So you would rank them as Shevchenko, Blanchfield, Furo in the order that you'd want them to be.
I agree with Spencer Kite. He was co-host a few weeks back.
I don't know who Spencer is. I tried to see a guy named Spencer in Canada, and he ducked me.
He tweeted out that Blanchfield beats both of them.
Mm.
So I trust his reads on fighters. He's pretty good with that.
No. Of course, and of course I'm joking. You're right. Spencer does know his stuff for sure.
But the thing is, if the thumb is a quick recovery, I'd like to get Shevchenko in there as quick as possible. I think the longer you wait, the more it leans in Grasso's favor.
Because, I mean, probably father time is not on
right
on anyone's side. And Shevchenko is, she's been in the game a while. She's been fighting a long time, so the miles are there.
So I'd rather it sooner than later. But I mean, I'm all for New Jersey's own going in there for a title.
Yeah, again, realistically, like I still would go the other way, but I think my preference is, I mean, if Grasso can fight in January, if that's something that's possible, or maybe early February or something like that, they really ought to just do it. Like, let's finish this quickly. Let's not drag this out. Let's get a result.
Yeah.
And really, whatever they do for the title, the other two women can fight. It's the only thing that makes sense. These four in some sort of bracket or round robin or whatever you want to think of it as, like they all just fight each other. That's kind of where we're at. I think we've established that these are very clearly the four women who are at the top right now. Who knows who truly is the best? We know who's the champion. We know that much. But I want all of them to fight each other, basically, in any permutation we can get. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I want to point, I know we talked about this before we started recording, and you gave me a good reason why it probably doesn't happen. But it makes no sense to me that a championship fight can't have an overtime round.
Right.
That needs to what in the grand scheme of things, since like Tough 5, the Tough finale doesn't matter much at all. Yet it gets an overtime round to declare a winner. It's just silly to me, like, because that's kind of like, it's almost a meaningless fight, not to the fighters, but in the grand scheme of things, it does nothing because both fighters end up with a contract regardless.
It doesn't mean what it used to win the Ultimate Fighter. It just doesn't. That's not a secret. But yes, like you said, I did give you a good counterpoint to that. I think probably the counterpoint to that, which is I don't know that regulations allow fights to go past 25 minutes, 5 rounds, whichever one of those it is, at this point. So I don't think you can get away with it, like, straight up, period. So they can do it for tough fights or 3-round fights because you can add an extra round to get the 4 because you're still not over 5. Once you get to that point, you can't really do it. I don't think so. I'm almost positive about that. But
yeah, I mean, but it should be an easy change to be like, well, these are the champions. They can handle it. Give them an extra 5 minutes.
I think that's kind of what they look at mostly with the title fights is they get that 25 minutes of MMA is a lot,
I know, but things like what happened can happen, and then we're stuck in a situation.
Yeah,
that we got to deal with.
But what if somehow you have an extra round, right? Give them the extra round, and after 5 minutes, we have somebody who won the round, but they lost a point for low blows.
that person automatically, no, that's a sudden death. You get a point taken, you lose. You foul and get a point taken, you lost. It's a DQ, auto DQ. That's it.
We're changing a lot of rules here. I mean, hey, whatever. We can talk about whatever we want, but yeah, I think you understand. It's really just not a reality, even if you want it.
It should be though. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's just a silly thing. Like, well, why are we ending in ties? We're not soccer, Scott. And even they go to penalty kicks in big fights or big matches. Sorry,
big fights.
They don't fight; they flop.
Soccer's known for their fighting.
Yeah,
they fall down very quickly.
Unless you're Zinedine Zidane headbutting guys in the chest.
No headbutts either.
Oh, that's true.
Either, dude.
He would be disqualified. See,
Zidane was. To be fair, he did that in the '90s when it was still NHB. So he would have gotten away with it. Maybe he would have been a decent fighter. I don't know. I don't know enough about Zidane other than the headbutt. That's all. I know.
That's all I know.
I think I want to say I was at like the airport when that happened. We were like flying somewhere, like maybe to Florida or something. I don't know. I have like vague memories of it being on a TV at like Newark Airport in the concourse or something like that. That's like I have two memories of watching things on TV at airports. That was one, like newsworthy things. That was one. The other one was I believe it was weird. They finally got Saddam Hussein.
Oh, that's okay. I was in high school during that.
Yeah.
When I remember the one.
We graduated at the same time.
The one teacher was like, "Oh, like going crazy." I remember, like, because they pulled the statue down and everything, and
yeah, I just remember flying. I think when we got him out, they got him out of the hole, right? He was in that like spider hole.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're very off topic. Let's get back to fighting here. Let's actually move on from the title picture here, and I just want to talk about Jack Della Maddalena, who got this is like the only other fight that really truly mattered in the grand scheme, as you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Good win for an up and coming prospect over. I think this is easily his best name under his belt now, beating Kevin Holland. Who do you want him to fight next? I know you like Jack Della, right?
I do. I like Jack Della.
Who do you want him to fight next?
I saw a lot of people calling out Luque, saying Luque and Jack Della would be a fun fight. So I don't hate that.
That'd be a big test. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I don't know how far or how fast you want to push Jack after this fight directly, but maybe I know Shavkat needs an opponent and he wants to fight. So I mean, might be a bit too steep right away. Maybe Ian Gary.
I think I would rather see Shavkat fight up. I think he's earned the right to go up.
Yeah.
I think I'm hearing, or at least maybe it's just a suggestion that it would be Ian Gary and Jeff Neal. Kind of makes some sense. That was the original fight I think they were supposed to have, and then it kind of fell apart. I still want to be Wonder Boy, but it doesn't seem like that's quite in the cards.
Well, I mean, they're painting a bad picture of Wonder Boy right now. Right, everything's coming out. He's turning down fights left and right.
I think he's just at the point in life he doesn't need to fight. Yeah. So he's just I'll fight when I feel like it, who I feel like I want to fight. Let him do it. Whatever. He fought a bunch of people. He was a championship level fighter. He himself was a draw away from becoming a champion.
Yeah.
Some people thought that he won one of those two or even both of those fights against Tyron Woodley. So I have no problem with it. He can do what he wants, man. Nicest MFer in the game, right?
He is. He's the NMF.
Yeah, that's what they say. Although I heard he's evil behind closed doors.
It's possible. I could see that.
I just made that up.
I can see it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But anyway, here's the other thing I would ask about Jack Della, because if they do push him on, and he was talking post fight last night about wanting to, kind of aspiring to the way Kevin Holland fights, where he fights off and he keeps busy. He doesn't, stay sidelined. And Jack Della's fought twice in the last couple of months. Obviously, he had one fight fall apart, but he did get back in there right now. If he does get in there, let's say one or two more times in the first, roughly half of the year, let's say Australia gets another UFC card in the fall, do you think they push him into a title fight?
Probably not. Not off. You don't think so? Not off one win, maybe off two, but not.
It would depend on who, though.
Yeah, it depends who he fights next, obviously.
What if he would? Let's. Here's a scenario. What if they say Jack Della Maddalena against Kamaru Usman next, and he beats Usman? Can he leapfrog? I don't think they do it, but
I think Bilal loses his absolute mind, and rightfully so. If that happens.
Well, what if Bilal gets his shot in the early part of the year?
Okay, if Bilal actually gets his shot, then yeah.
I'm not saying he leapfrogs necessarily. We're still talking about November, September, October, November kind of situation.
Like supposedly Kobe's supposed to get his shot. Then Bilal's supposed to get his shot. Then where does Shavkat fit in the mix?
Maybe
Welterweight,
Shavkat at that point would be fighting someone like Jack Della, depending.
you got good problems at welterweight, I think. But it may be
Well, not for the fighters, but
it may be a little deep to get him there for one fight, unless he, like you said, he goes out and beats Kamaru Usman convincingly. So
I think beating Kamaru Usman anyway would be pretty good.
oh, of course it'd be.
I'm not saying they'd make this fight even. I don't know why Kamaru would take that fight, to be perfectly honest.
He would not.
But I mean, we're obviously talking about hypotheticals here. That was all I had kind of coming off of, storyline wise. But we do have an adventure in officiating, an adventure in refereeing, my friend. In the Edgar Chairez fight against Daniel Lacerda, what went down initially as a technical submission victory for Chairez because Chris Tognoni, referee, stopped the fight. It ended up getting overturned on review. Of course, everybody was very unhappy with the way this happened. Why don't you break down kind of what happened real quick in that sequence?
Basically, Chairez gets a standing arm-in guillotine attack, pretty much. He's kind of doing it as an anaconda, kind of that grip. But
that's what it looked like.
He kind of loses that grip, and it's kind of almost guillotine style. And then Chairez just lets his hand go limp, his arm. He just lets it flop. And Tognoni's like, oh, he's out. It's over. Stops the fight. Lacerda's like, I'm sorry, not Chairez.
Very much standing on his own.
Yeah, Lacerda drops it, let his arm go limp. He stops it. Lacerda's like, what are you doing? I was fine, blah, blah, blah. They see the replay. Tognoni apologizes, said, I made a mistake. Sorry. And they overturn it to a no contest. Dominic Cruz loses his mind. DC's kind of like, it's bad. It's not good. John Anik's trying to like be the middleman a little bit.
John is always trying to be, if not the voice of reason, the kind of the one who brings it back to more sensible regions of conversation.
Yeah, I have this. I watched the post fight with Dean Thomas, and I feel the same as Dean. It's like there's no reason to let your arm go limp like that. I'm only a blue belt. Dom, I'm sure he's a black belt, much more experienced than me, but I'd never heard of just letting your arm hang as the defense to a guillotin.
Dean knows his stuff too, so he's speaking from a position of authority as well.
Dean is saying you don't just let your arm go limp. It's your responsibility to make sure the referee doesn't think you're out. Like, and Dom's saying, no, you shouldn't have to give a thumbs up. Well, you know what? Maybe it helps. Like, Tognoni has years of wrestling experience. I don't know his jiu-jitsu experience, but he's been in the game forever, so he knows what a guillotine is. The commentary was making out like this guy's never touched a mat in his life, which is unfair, but.
It's still a very regrettable situation. Yeah. I think Dom and to an extent DC, who kind of just jumped in with him. I don't know that we had to go so berserk here, especially because we do have the process. We're in a commission that is going to go through all the correct processes, figure out, okay, we don't have to have this be a straight up submission loss for this guy. Now, granted, he's still robbed of the opportunity to try and get a win. Daniel Lacerda is, and so is Edgar Chairez for that matter. But it's still not the worst of results. Like let's let them play it out. We've seen this happen. This is not the first time. It's not the first time DC they're both DCs.
Yeah.
It's not the first time the DC crew has ever experienced this. So it's frustrating when all they do is just kind of sit there and whine and whine and whine and whine and whine. Look, we get it. It was a bad stoppage. It was a bad stoppage. No one's calling it anything other than that, Let it work its way out, we have these guys. They're actively, especially DC. I said DC again. They're both DCs. Dom. We have Dominic Cruz at one point actively walking through the motions of how are you supposed to score certain things during fights. And he just doesn't know the rules, which is ridiculous because not only is he talking about the rule, but he was a fighter who was probably still the most accomplished bantamweight champion that we've ever had. And how did he win most of the time? On the cards. It's like he lucked into it.
Yeah, it really is. It's like he point fighted his way to a great career.
He point fighted with a strategy that had no basis in the actual reality of point fighting, which is so crazy.
He may have read the boxing rules.
Yes, he did, because he talks about ring generalship every week. I don't think he did this week, to be fair.
It's I want to say it's unfair that, all the progress we kind of made, so it takes a step or two back every time Dom commentates and we have a night like we had.
I knew once we got the Daniel Cormier and Dominic Cruz team that we were going to have a night like that. They're the ones who go on the worst tangents and rants and that kind of thing. There's no balancing it out. At least we do have John Anik there, who is very concerned with being familiar with the rules and that kind of thing. He's at least got that. He certainly has his opinions, and he tends to share them on Anik and Florian, their podcast. But he does often leave that off and leave it to his color commentators to kind of discuss that kind of thing during the broadcast. But it's still just like, once they're there, all they're going to do is go off on total tangents about the rules and how they don't know them, but they're talking about them like they do. And it's just crazy. It just drives me up the wall. Talk us through the other stuff. Now, granted, this was a situation where you're going to talk about that, but at least know how it works.
Yeah. And another point saying, just restart the fight. Why is this not an option? This makes no sense that you cannot restart from there after a replay situation. It's just so stupid. There is no reason that this fight could not have restarted.
It's a weird thing, right? Like, I don't know. That's like a whole nother conversation. I feel like we could get into a whole nother day as far as that, because I don't want to delay too much from getting on to these rounds. We got a bunch of rounds we want to talk about.
Well, okay, I'll end it here. We don't have a fight card coming up, but we have a project we're leaning towards doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
With rules oriented, where we have ideas. I'll talk about everything there.
All right.
So
we'll table that talk.
You'll have all my solutions that should be implemented immediately in due time.
Immediately in due time. Those are at odds, sir.
No. The rules should be implemented immediately, but you'll have them voiced out in due time.
Now with
yes.
All right. But anyway, that out of the way, let's talk quick about the unanimity report and then get into why we have the unanimity report that we have. 20 rounds scored, 11 of them unanimous. Not the greatest unanimity that we've ever seen. 55%. Usually we're closer to 75, 80.
Yeah, the average,
these things happen.
Average event this year so far is 74.55% unanimity.
So far below. But it's because 5 of the 9 rounds that are contested were 8-9 splits. I don't think we've ever had anything close to this, Dan.
No, we didn't.
I can't remember a time where we even had like 4 or maybe even 3.
Yeah,
we might have had 3.
And just so you're aware, dissent percentage and unanimity percentage are 2 different things. Dissent means you have the opposite round winner.
Mm-hmm.
Unanimity encompasses the degree to the win. So
yeah,
just
so it's basically just any round where they don't 100% agree would be unanimity.
Yeah.
Dissent, when I talk about dissents and that kind of thing with the data that I keep, that is specifically like Dan said, with the round winner. I count the 8-9s a little differently because it's tough to group that in. 8s and 9s, it's almost its own beast. Like you can't really group it together in that particular way. But just for the sake of what we talk about on this show, that's how we discuss it. So let's get into it though, and I think we're going to be talking very much so early on about our 8-9s, but we do have to get to one of the rounds in Grasso and Shevchenko that was not the 8-9 split. This was more or less the deciding round of the fight when it really comes down to it. Is round 4. Round 5 is the one where we have the 8-9 split that we'll get into. But anyway, the scores ended up being, by the way, 48-47. 48-47 the other way, and 47-47. The 47-47 came from Mike Bell. Grasso's card came from Gennaro Camijo, and Sal D'Amato had the Shevchenko 48-47. That's right?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's dive in to round 4 first, which again, we're only talking about who won the round here.
Yeah, this was a super close round. I think Shevchenko's winning at distance. On the feet, she's landing pretty good. But then she goes for the takedown. She's stuck in a front headlock where Grasso lands 4 knees to the head. Now, during this, Shevchenko's putting her hand on the mat.
Trying to play the game.
Trying to play this game. And we learn you need 2 hands in Nevada to be considered down, which is insane. Let's just, it's so stupid. Get rid of that. I'll talk about that later also. But in the midst of it, she's arguing with Herb Dean. So this is telling me that these, while they look good, they're not that effective. If she can argue, I mean, it's just not really there. as well
I mean,
as
she's
it,
not
as it
getting
could
landed
be.
on in the face. She's getting landed on her head. So.
Yeah. On the break of the clinch, Shevchenko lands a nice elbow that cuts Grasso open, and then, for the rest of the round, she wins at distance. It is a very close round, though. I lean Shevchenko 10-9.
I did lean Shevchenko 10-9. I was watching it live. I watched it again today, and man, I was even more torn than I was the first time. I still, I'm not going to change my score. I feel still good about it. I can defend it. But Grasso, man, I thought those knees counted pretty well. They were some of the heaviest strikes all around. I think I know what you're saying with like, oh, she's still talking to the referee, but again, her face is not being impacted. It's not like her jaw is a problem, So like, I mean, I could talk to somebody while someone's hitting me on the head.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying she's having a conversation while it's like a fly in your face. Like it's more of an annoyance. It's coming off as like, hey, she's kneeing me in the head. My hand's down. And meanwhile, you just keep smacked in the head. But
that can come down to the person, though. Some people are just able to do that,
Just like whatever.
And I would bank that Valentina Shevchenko is the type of person who could do that.
Sure. So, but I mean,
all I'm saying is I don't think it necessarily means that they weren't landing hard.
Okay.
Maybe agree to disagree, on that one, but anyway, I still ended up on the same side as you. I just thought it was very close. I'm very okay with it going to Grasso. I think that seemed like initially it seemed like that was the way a lot of people were leaning, but then we ended up having all the scores posted afterward on MMA Decisions, and they pulled a ton of scores. So if we have a split majority here, or a split majority, I should say, if we're split evenly between 48-47 Grasso, 48-47 Shevchenko on MMA Decisions, we're talking about pretty much everybody almost definitely had round 4 as the decider, I would think. So pretty much this can realistically go either way. I think a lot of people would have felt, and I think it's justified in this case. There was a weird, by the way, from Jed Meshew of MMA Fighting. He had like a 47-46, which meant he had 10-8s on each side. And the whole conversation after this fight was that there's no 10-8s. So it's like, what are you doing?
Well, that I remember seeing conversation that, okay, if round 5's a 10-8, then so is round 3. That's
fine. Okay.
That's the conversation.
It is fine, but it's also just, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's totally justified to go one way or the other. We both had Shevchenko. We saw it the same way as judges Mike Bell and Sal D'Amato. It was Junichiro Kamijo who saw this round and the fight for Grasso. So yeah, I don't think anybody was really getting upset or up in arms about this except for crazy people.
Yes, quite a few of them.
There's so many.
God.
But,
yeah,
they have a disproportionate platform on. I always say Twitter, but I know it's called X now. I can't call it X. It's just anyway.
What if every time you logged in, a DMX song played?
I might start changing my mind, but it also doesn't. So we don't live in that reality, sir.
Okay.
Let's go to round 5. This is the round that, of course, everybody's really dying to listen to, I think, or talk about.
This is the round. Shevchenko's looking like she's about to, go on, probably win 4 rounds to 1, basically.
Depending on how you scored.
Yeah. She doesn't because of what happens, but she's jabbing away, really kind of almost taking over, but at the same time, she's really just using her jab. Nothing much else beside that. They're pretty stiff ones, though. And then deja vu, almost the same exact sequence. All of a sudden, Grasso is on Shevchenko's back, and she's looking for a choke. The first attempt looked like...
landing some punches, too. She's landing some punches.
Well, okay. She does have that big flurry of ground and pound.
Yeah, that was the first thing.
I thought she caught a lot of triceps and biceps and shoulders. I know some got through for sure.
There's some definitely getting through.
I didn't
But you're right, there's some that are blocked.
I think a good amount of them were blocked.
And I don't know, because I just watched it. I don't know that I see it necessarily as like a good amount of them are blocked. What is a good amount, I guess. There's a chunk of them that are blocked. It's not unimpeded.
But then there's a situation where Shevchenko stops moving for like 5 seconds and just like absorbing these in her arms or to the face. And it's like, well, what's going on here? What are you doing, Valentina? And then, she comes to, and then they scramble. Yeah, she's going to, go for the rear naked choke. We have a terrible view of it from the camera it's like we're overhead. We can't see if it's under. We don't know how tight it is. But what we do know is it's a clear Grasso round. She wins it 10-9.
I would think so. You started seeing the conversations, and I think even Michael Bisping.
He scored it for Shevchenko, and I don't...
Scored it for Shevchenko. And look, I don't want to sit here and say it's impossible to give that round to Shevchenko. But I think if one of the judges had given that round, I think we would look at it and we would say, this is a clear round the other way.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
it
would.
would be a great score.
It wouldn't be. Valentina wouldn't be as
But
salty
again,
as
not
she
the
was.
most indefensible one, I guess, is all I'm really saying.
I think it's tough.
I think it's tough too.
It's a tough one.
Dude, we've seen some bad ones this year.
It's all right. It's true. Yeah, we have a whole
Everything's
spreadsheet.
in context, my man.
We got a whole spreadsheet of them.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, I think this is just a 9. I mean, I did mention this.
I think about it. This is actually a 9.
I mentioned this just because I saw a lot of stats being thrown out as the people's defense, saying how can someone score a 10-8 if they get outstruck 23-20 in a round.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pointed out, I said, listen, you can get a 10-8 and the loser of the round isn't shut out. They can have some success and still lose the round 10-8. That's all I said. Some people didn't think that was true.
Well,
although it is.
There's someone like every so often I see this shared on Twitter that it's like an old tweet from somebody saying like Twitter will take your words and the people on Twitter will take your words and they're always twisted into something else. You could say like, I like pancakes, and someone would be like, oh, so you hate waffles? It's like, no, I don't hate waffles. I said I like pancakes. Yeah. That's a whole other different thing. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens out of these.
It's crazy. But yeah, I think this should be a 10-9.
It should be for Shevchenko. I don't think there's any. I don't think you have to qualify it in any way. This really ought to be a 10-9. This wasn't a good score to give the 8 here. I will say, watching it live, I at least had it go through my head as this sequence is playing out. I'm like, are we starting to get anywhere near the 8? And I said, no. I just didn't think we were. But like, it's just one of those things. Like when it changes so drastically there and things are going one way, you at least got to think about it.
Well, so little insight into how I get my notes.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm watching around, I'm trying to score it, and then I'm like, is this a round I'm gonna have to? Are we likely to discuss? How close is it? And then.
Do I have to talk about this one? Do I have to care about this
exactly. One? And then after I score it and parse through the round, I'm like, okay, probably should get some notes on this one so I don't have to watch it again. I do the same thing when it starts reaching potential 10-8 territory. So that happened rather often the other night. I did not start writing notes for this round.
Sure.
Because I thought it was just going to be a clear 9. So
I think that's fair. The only thing you can think is, are things getting overweighted? Or are we basically just weighing too heavily what is happening in this final sequence? There's speculation that, it's because the crowd is so pro Grasso, it's very loud. It's like these guys have been in very loud arena. I don't think that's what happened.
No, they're
could Mike Bell have, who was the one who gave the 8 here, could he have overweighted what is happening? Yeah, I would think he in this case, I think he absolutely did. But would it have been different if he was sitting in a room, a soundproof room like I always see? I don't think so. And I do think it makes it harder in a lot of scenarios for you to be able to hear how well those things are landing. Because even in a loud arena, probably, and maybe not in the loudest ones, right? Maybe that stuff does get drowned out. But we've been to live fights, and I've been very close to watch fights before, even at the UFC level, in the Madison Square Garden and everywhere. And you can hear stuff. It helps to know. Going to a soundproof room doesn't help you.
Dean Thomas did point that out. He said, you have to take into account their perspective. They are seeing things different than what you're seeing on TV. And then Anthony Smith said something stupid that I was like, all right, shut up. Like, and then Dean went into the other things, but whatever. Just stop.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I don't think it's defendable. I don't think a 9 is. I don't think an 8 here is defendable. That's what it is. We shouldn't see rounds like this scored as an 8. It's unfortunate it happened in this particular spot because it did turn a result that was definitive. It would have been definitive in some way into one that is much less so now. And that is the real shame of it. Is I don't think it's necessarily robbery that Shevchenko doesn't get the win, because we are talking about a close round 4.
Yeah,
it's entirely justified to say there are ways that this fight could have ended with Grasso winning. If another person sits in one of the 2 chairs that are occupied by Mike Bell and Sal D'Amato, maybe Grasso wins that fight. It's very okay to go that way. So the idea that we have like a bad result in terms of who gets to leave with the belt, I have no problem with that. It's dissatisfying that we have a draw because it shouldn't be, but it is what it is. We've unfortunately seen fifth rounds of title fights that were not scored the best way, leading to divisions being held up. The men's flyweight division we talked about. Junichiro Kamijo scored the fifth round of the first. No, was it the first? Yeah, the first fight between Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. Scored the fifth round for Moreno, which we looked at many times, and neither one of us can defend that score. We don't think it's a good score. And it led to 3 more fights between these two people.
So you're saying Junichiro Kamijo is the X factor. Every time he does a 125-pound title fight, men or women, it's going to lead to a quadrilogy.
All I'm saying is he lords over the divisions with an iron fist. No, I'm kidding. But look, these things happen in MMA, Gus Johnson. It really is unfortunate, but to beat the dead horse a few more times, it is what it is. We are stuck with this result, and we can only hope that judges such as Mike Bell and other judges in general take this on the chin and learn from it, and hopefully we can avoid situations like that in the future. He's a good judge. And that's another theme I saw from a lot of people was there was frustration that it was Mike Bell, especially because so many people stuck up for him as a good judge and still view him as a good judge, but that this was a bad result.
Imagine it was Sal.
Oh yeah, no, that would be the end. Twitter would have gone insane.
Twitter would have exploded.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to keep in mind too about Mike Bell, he is historically one of the most likely judges to give an 8 compared to a 9.
Yeah.
He's got a very high percentage of, over the last 6 years or so, giving the 8 as the lone guy versus giving the 9 as the lone guy. One of the highest ones out there, especially of the traveling level. The only one that I think, off the top of my head, the one that comes closest is Guillermo Bravo.
Okay.
Guillermo Bravo. He has 10. Off the top of my head, he has 10 times where he was the 8 and everyone else was a 9, and it's never been the other way, at least in the last 6 years in the UFC specifically.
I mean, yeah.
So there's company there, but that's about it. More judges, I think, of the experienced type are still more willing to give the 8 than not, but he is more the outlier that way. So I'm not surprised that he's the one that's in this scenario. That doesn't mean he's ever wrong when he does those things. I think he's wrong here, but I don't think that's an indicator that he does it too much. It's just that he's more likely to. That's really all that means.
Okay.
I think is the horse sufficiently overdead?
Yeah. Let me just say, and also
one more whack on the horse.
Yeah. There was no Mexican home cooking.
No,
at all.
Wasn't.
So I mean, I think Shevchenko should kind of curb that a little bit.
Well, she's always complaining.
She was quite salty.
She is by definition very salty. I think we've done this one. The horse is so dead. Yeah. It's already glue now. Let's move on to the next fight, which actually has, like I said, all 3 rounds are 8-9 splits going all the way to the beginning of the prelims here. Not really an impactful fight in the grand scheme here, but Josephine Knutson got the win over Marnik Mann. Unanimous nod, 30-24. Don't say that one a lot. 30-25 and 30-27. So we have one person who said, these are all 8s. And we had another person who said, these are all 9s. Here we go. Round 1, man.
I want to preface the whole fight.
All right.
That all these rounds are different rounds than what we're typical of seeing.
What do you mean different rounds?
They're different rounds. They deserve a different score.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to say that.
Say it, yeah.
Okay, but what we have, I didn't get that to give different score.
Okay.
Round 1, she dominates the round. It's easily her round. Domination's there. I think she lacks damage. She did get some good shots, but there's no real sustained offense. She didn't pass to Mount until about 45 seconds left, and she did want to posture up to drop bombs. She just couldn't. I mean, she's doing these little side elbow things. Those are good. I just think this is a solid 9.
Marnik Mann is doing anti-fighting, though. That's why. She's truly just holding on.
That's something else I want to get to, too, that whole discussion.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask yourself, did the fighter earn the 9? Probably not. But then you got to ask, did the other fighter earn the 8? And I also think probably not.
Mm-hmm.
which one takes precedence? Which one should be the one that has to be answered first?
I suppose that's a philosophical question.
So
you're saying this is a 9, though.
I think this is just a real solid 9. I wish we had more tools to give a different score. I would love for this to be hard-coded. This is an 8 round.
It's a CSJ 8 for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
This fits the bill of our Couchside judges scoring 8.
I found, I mean, the common...
Not that we do the other fights that way.
Common theme is a lot of lulls in action.
Yeah.
For this whole fight for me. So, but I just like a 9 better here. I'm just saying I have no issue with an 8. I just like a 9 better.
The reason why I actually went the other way from you and I gave this one an 8 is because of the big issue that we have right now with the scoring and with the criteria, is that we have written criteria that has not been updated significantly in each of the last 2 years, ever since in practice in commissions like Nevada, really Nevada especially, but a lot of them feed off of Nevada, that we're looking only for damage first. We need that D to get to the 8. And if you can't get that one, it's not going to be an 8. So it doesn't matter if you have dominance and duration, which by the written rules, you can have 2 Ds to consider an 8.
Mm-hmm.
You can consider it. You don't have to go there. You can consider it. I look at this round by those written criteria and I say, I see dominance because we have a fighter who has completely outclassed the other because Marnik Man didn't do anything.
I agree.
And we had some nice offense, not amazing offense, but nice offense from Knudsen. I thought that was dominance there. We have duration. We have a long period of time where Knudsen is very dominant.
See, I agree.
And I think we've got 2 Ds here. There's no I'm not giving damage. But because of that, I can go to the 8. And I think I feel okay with that because Marnik Man did nothing. She didn't do anything. She's anti-fighting at the end. She's holding on.
I understand.
She's really just trying to get there, not for the last few seconds, but for at least the last minute. She's just holding on.
It was like 45 seconds. She's just holding on. But that's where I'm at. When do you start counting duration? Because there was a lot of times she's just in half guard, applying shoulder pressure, just holding there. So I didn't check off duration.
That's fine.
But
that's okay.
But like I said, it's a different round. It's like there's no way you can ever say Man was competitive in this round. So
no,
maybe that
she wasn't. She was not in this fight. Period.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you in the sense that the way things are scored these days, you're supposed to give this one a 9. You are supposed to. That's what's expected of you if you're an official. You're supposed to give this one a 9. Written rules be damned. But I'm going to put it out there as I gave it an 8 because I think it's a different round and I think the rules do support it. I don't think I'm going rogue here in terms of the actual written criteria. But the main issue I have is that we haven't actually updated it to account for this. We're just doing this unofficially. And that's it drives me nuts now that we've gone through 2 commission annual conferences. No changes to this, but this is still in practice and it's frustrating. Do one, do it this way because it's totally at odds with the actual written rules. It's technically speaking still within them, right? Because you only have 2 Ds, so you can consider it. And we're telling you don't consider it if it's not damage. So it's not breaking the rules, but it's also ignoring the rules as they are written. You're kind of tweaking them in a way. So that's what's frustrating to me by this point. For a little while, I gave it a grace period. Now I'm over it. I'm starting to get frustrated.
Okay.
So they got to make the change. At any rate, Mike Bell was the one who had the 8. Sal D'Amato and Brian Miner, they gave this one the 9s. Round 2, there's not much more we have to say, probably. Do you want to say anything different about this round?
No.
Okay. It was basically the same. Same discussion. In this case, though.
Oh, are you saying for round 2? Do I have anything?
Yeah, for round 2.
Oh, yeah, round 2. I think the damage is higher.
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah,
especially on the feet. On the feet, she's landing hard at distance. Those knees to the body were very good, but again, she just clinches and does nothing with the clinch. Maybe a punch or 2 here and there, and then it's body head, stuck in half guard for almost the entire time they're on the ground. And then she does the classic Dan Urban grappling where, oh, I heard the warning bell go off. Okay, I can open up a little bit because I don't have to worry about getting stuck in a bad position if things go badly. And rains, some good punches in the final 7 seconds.
I believe that's called urban warfare.
True. All right. This is. I only went 9 again, but I think you can get there because she did have more damage there. I might want to. If by this
I still
time,
don't think damage is checked though. That's the funny thing.
I do think it was checked a little bit. A little bit more.
Dispute.
But no, at no time in this fight will I say was I worried about a stoppage coming.
Sure.
Like, man was never in danger of being stopped.
It doesn't need to get to that point.
As a fan, I was frustrated as hell watching this fight because I'm like, just end it already. You are head and shoulders above this woman. Just end it. Do something to end this fight. Like, just end it already.
She played it too safe.
And she didn't. And if I was Couchside, that would have never crossed my mind, as, you know, I'm there to do a job. But as a fan watching at home, it's like, this sucks. Just win already. Like, you can do it.
I want to go get a snack.
Like, and I wonder if that played a little bit. I tried to watch it again, and I kind of came to the same conclusion. Like, okay, I can see an 8 here for round 2. I probably may go 8 in that final 10 seconds because she had a real good burst. But I'm gonna stick with my live score of 9. So.
Yeah, I went the other way. I gave this one an 8. It is a little bit stronger of a round.
I think if you go 8-1, you got to go 8-2.
Well, that's another thing. If you're a judge, like once you kind of set the bar in a round, like you kind of have to be able to do that throughout the fight, right? Like if round 1 is an 8, if Mike Bell scores that as an 8, he can't look at a round that was better in round 2 and say, well, there's only a 9.
Yeah,
he's kind of locked in, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to look at because really you should still be just scoring based on everything. But once you're in that fight, you've kind of set the rules of engagement, or not the rules of engagement, but the rules of how we score this fight personally with that 8. And that's probably a good reason why we don't see as many 8s in the first round. That is a little bit more of a reluctant round for people to go 8 historically, unless sometimes it's there. Sometimes you know what you saw, and that's an 8. But in around like round 1, I can see why, just in general, judges D'Amato and Minor might have been reluctant to pull the 8 there. But again, Judge Bell is a little more likely to pull the 8 anyway, so that's again not surprising that he did it there. In this case, though, it was Bell and D'Amato round 2 had the 8, and it was Minor who was just the 9. I guess I probably should just put it out there, right? Mike Bell gave all the 8s, and Minor gave all the 9s. So at this point, I think we can figure out how the scores got to what they were, right? But yeah, I mean, it's the same reasoning. It's the same reasoning why I gave the 8 as the last one. I think I can check 2 off. I still don't think I'm getting damage. I actually don't. But it just seems more easy for me to get to the 2 other Ds this time. So yeah, I'm going there. I've already said it. That's an 8. So this one's an 8 too. All right. Round 3, man.
Round 3, she gets it to the ground pretty quick, and she's there the whole time. And I actually do think she started trying to open up a little bit more. She had some good offense. And this is the one I kind of wish I went 3. I went 8 on the live because I didn't. I was over this fight by this point. I just kept yelling, "This is why you didn't get a contract week 1. This is why you didn't get a contract. Just finish." But on the rewatch, I do kind of wish I went 8. This was total domination. She had good damage for the whole round, pretty much. I think I should have went 8 here. So
it's definitely the closest to getting. It's the biggest round she had.
Yeah,
it is. But I still don't even get to the damage here. I actually still don't. I don't think we have someone who's landing such a level of damage that you say, oh wow, this is big. You know, it's different. It's still different because she's still not. My man is still doing nothing.
She got the 4th D. Different.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's the 4th D. They should put that in.
Yeah, and man checked off the 5th D. Defensive.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe that should be the other D. Maybe there should be a 4th D there. Like if the other fighter is defensive, just straight up defensive and not fighting defensively in a way that is anti-competitive and anti-fighting.
Yeah. Maybe
that's one that should say, you can check that off and say, hey, I think we got a D here. I don't know. Well, let's explore that. I just thought of that at the moment. Based on kind of what you said, but we need something. We need to do something here about the idea of a fighter like this who's she's really not trying to win the fight. She's just not getting destroyed to the same degree that she would otherwise. And I don't think that's something that should get. I think that's something that should get punished in the scoring.
Yeah, and anyway, the 60 destroyed would fall under damage.
Ooh, yeah. You know what? Let's make it like 3,000 D. But find a reason to get every D in the dictionary in there. Dictionary. There we go. If someone starts laying a bunch of words out there, SAT words, then they get a. Anyway, nothing different here. You had a 9, I had an 8. It was same as last round. Bell and D'Amato had the 8. Miner had the 9. That's all we got.
That's all we got.
That's all we got. At least for for this fight.
Yeah.
We do have one more of these 8-9s to be talking about here before we kind of get into the last 3 are just going to be who won the round. And that's in a fight that did not go a whole lot longer after round 1. Lupi Godinez finishes off Elise Reed, submission via rear naked choke in round 2. But she had a really great first round. So what happens in this round, man?
Yeah, so Reed gets dropped by Lupi. She gets her back taken, and she has to defend these rear naked choke attacks. And then with like a minute 10 left about, Lupi switches to an armbar, and Reed's arm is just completely extended, hyperextended for, 55 seconds or so. I mean, credit to Elise for not tapping, but her elbow definitely hurts today. There's something wrong with it. I'm almost positive today. Herb Dean is getting nervous, like it's Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey 1, where
he was like hovering over them at one point.
Like Tate's arm, remember her arm got basically like just twisted around like a candy cane kind of.
Yeah, I remember how arms work, and I remember that one doing what it's not supposed to do. Yeah,
and that's where it was heading for me, especially when she started going down towards the leg. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be nasty. I'm just waiting for the snap. Credit to Elise, it doesn't snap, but I think this is high damage in grappling terms, in a grappling sense. Dominance for sure, and that was for a long period of time. So I do think you have 3Ds here to go 10-8, and that's where I went 10-8.
This is definitely the strongest 8 that we had. This is the one where I'm actually a little surprised that it wasn't unanimous. I'm not super surprised because there's still kind of like, well, what do you do with grappling damage?
Exactly, it has to be defined.
It's such a elusive definition right now that probably needs to be tightened up. Well, I would say almost definitely needs to be tightened up. So I can understand in that context why it's a split here, especially now. Like a few years ago, before, of course, the point of demarcation, Blachowicz versus Adesanya. Before that fight, I think this is an 8. Everyone's going to see an 8, and then we're done. But it's changed a little bit. I don't necessarily hold it against Judge Sal D'Amato here for giving the 9, but I feel like we watched an 8 in this round. You and I agree. Mike Bell, Brian Miner, they saw this. Brian Miner notably did not give any 8s in that last fight we just talked about, but this one he saw as an 8, and I think he was justified here.
Yeah,
I can see it.
And you also have the saying that we've been told: would you rather be almost knocked out once, or almost submitted 10 times?
Yeah,
you'd rather be almost submitted because typically there's no damage in submissions. Typically, because it's mostly chokes in MMA. Joint locks.
Sure, but we are talking about an armbar.
But in this sense, we are talking about an armbar, which makes, I think this is the funniest thing. I mean, it's not funny, but she let her arm get severely damaged in round 1 for her to go out in round 2 and tap to a choke instead of just go to sleep. It's like, you should have tapped earlier then if that's what you're going to do. I mean, it's just a chokehold. You're going to sleep. Like,
maybe the arm was hurting more at that point. I don't know.
I found it hilarious, actually.
I don't know. I mean, well wishes on a recovery for Elise Reed. I think she's probably sort of okay. I don't think it was like jacked up in such a bad way. We've seen worse, right? But
her arm's hurting.
She's still gonna have to recover from that to some degree. So, but anyway, we're at least on the same page here, you and I, on the 8 here. Let's move on to we're done with the 8-9s here, right?
Yeah. Now it's just the boring round winners.
Yeah. It's funny, by the way. I think we talked about in sequence all 5 of the 8-9s from weakest to strongest case.
Okay.
I think that's actually how it happened, right? Because we feel like in Knutson fight, 1 was that way, then 2 was a little better, then 3 was a little better than that.
Yeah.
And then the first one we said there's no case, and then this one we said, yeah, it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look at that. That was not planned. I didn't do it that way. Dan knows I changed the structure of the fights we talk about. Sometimes he'll just list them in the way they happened, and I always go in and mess with it, and I'm sure it bothers him. But
it doesn't bother me. It bothers me more how you write TKO.
Oh, we don't need to bother more people with that. That's a whole nother.
But I do want to point out one thing.
What do you want?
In that last fight was round 1, and you mentioned less likely to go 8 in round 1.
That's true.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we have any data that backs that up. Do we?
I haven't done the research on that. That's going to take me a long time, but I could do that one. I'll probably find it. Clean up my house right now. Because now my kids are in school like full day school because my preschooler last year, he's in kindergarten now.
Nice.
He used to be in for just 2.5 hours. So I would come home and I have no time and I'd be tired as heck because my life is just doesn't allow for sleep, So now it does,
Yeah.
which is great because then I sleep, which in theory gives me less time to get stuff done, but I'm more energized. So I'm more willing to get stuff done when I'm awake.
Oh, good.
So I've already cleaned up my office. My goal is to, like, by the end of this calendar year, I'm going to have our whole house looking nice so that we can have people over and not be like, yeah, sorry, we have children here.
Well,
we
good
don't
for
have
you.
time to clean for you.
Tomorrow's going to be awful for me. But anyway.
To get back to why I'm setting up is I'm going to have time to do things that I didn't before. So as much as I was able to do things before, I'm going to have even more, and I'm excited for that. But let's talk about these last few fights, especially the split decision between Jack Della Maddalena and Kevin Holland, which was all 29-28, one of those natural splits. Nothing strange about it. We're just talking about round one as the deciding factor in a close competitive fight between two top fighters. Top 15 or whatever, right? Let's talk about round one, man. What do you think?
It was a good round. I think when Dean Thomas came out, he called it a pedestrian round. Although they did throw a ton of strikes each. It was kind of like they were just feeling each other out and giving each other good looks, just throwing a bunch of volume.
Kicking Kevin Holland. Yeah, I can't talk today. Kicking Kevin Holland in the behind and him selling it like he's a character in a cartoon.
Yeah, that
was funny.
It's a very close round. I think Maddalena got through with the better shots overall. Holland did have a couple stiff ones, but I just think it's a Jack round. Super close. No fight either way.
The only thing I'd add to that is I thought that Holland started coming on a little later, and if he had a little bit more time, he might have been able to take that back. But you only have 5 minutes. It is what it is. But the momentum did carry over because he did win round two. I also had it for Maddalena, but this is very easy to go the other way. In fact, I didn't quite flip because I still felt good about defensible about my score, but it's a tough one. So this is just a real hard luck loss, I think, for Kevin Holland. We did see it the same way, though, as the majority, which was Eric Colon and Sal D'Amato. Mike Bell, the outjudge on this one as well, seeing it for Holland, but perfectly defensible. It's just someone had to lose a close fight. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
We've got two more here. This one being, it was a round one, but in a fight that really ended up being in control for Kyle Nelson the rest of the way. He got the win over Fernando Padilla, unanimous nod, 29-28 twice, and a 30-27. But that first round, two of those scores went to Padilla, one went to Nelson. What happened in this round, and who did you see it for?
I thought it was a pretty competitive round. I thought Padilla was landing better with a little bit more effect and impact. Nelson was bleeding a little bit early. Padilla had some good kicks. Nelson had some good shots of his own to the head. He had some good body kicks and some really solid leg kicks. Yeah. But I do think it was a Padilla round. Close. No issue either way.
Same. Yeah. I really don't have anything to add to that one, actually. So we saw it the same as the majority. Judges Mike Bell and Adelaide Bird. Sal D'Amato was the one off on his own for this one. I saw people grousing about the fact that, oh my God, how do we get 30-27 out of this fight? I don't see why people are mad about that one. This seems okay to me. I think I like my Padilla score, but I don't think it's that bad to go the other way.
No.
Whatever. And then the last round here. This one in a fight that was almost entirely Tracy Cortez's fight, right? Or at least it felt that way for quite a while. Got the win over Jasmine Jasudavicius, 30-27 twice, and a 29-28. We're talking about round two in this case, though. This is the only one that somebody saw for Jasudavicius. What happened this round?
I thought this was the most interesting of outside of the main event of who won the round discussion. Beginning of the round, Cortez continues to land like she was in the first, but she seems to maybe be slowing down a bit, and Jasudavicius starts landing a little bit better. She gets a couple takedowns, but she's not really doing much with it at all. She's getting around through the body lock around the back, a couple little punches here and there, but nothing really of all that much effective offense. When they separate, Cortez lands a real solid 1-2. And I think that pushes it back in Cortez's favor. Very close round, but by those two strikes, I have it for Cortez.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I got really close to flipping near the end of the round for Jasudavicius. I think it's almost similar to Holland in the sense that maybe with a little bit more time, she makes it more clear to me that she could have won that round. There's a good case for her. And Jacob Montalvo probably can make it. He's the one who scored it for Jasudavicius. And even the commentators really thought that was like a pretty solid round for Jasudavicius. I don't think they necessarily saw it as overwhelming that way. But you know what? They change their mind moment to moment and forget everything they just said. So who knows?
Very true. I did read on Twitter that 30-27 Cortez was atrocious.
It was atrocious.
Atrocious.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. I forget everything I said.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. But me and Dan are fellow dummies, and apparently so are Mike Bell and Sal D'Amato, because they had it the same way we did for Cortez in round 2, which meant 30-27 for her.
Exactly.
Take from that what you will. Whatever. I don't know. That's all we got. That's all the rounds. We got through them. I don't think we're ever gonna have another one where we talk about so many 8-9s, man. This is a unicorn. This is almost as unlikely as a 10-7 being in the discussion.
Yeah.
Almost.
Oh.
Almost. Not quite. But especially in these days, because again, we've moved the goalpost on what an 8-9 or what an 8 really ends up being. So finish wise, we did have 5 finishes. There were 6 fights that ended early because we had the 1-no contest, but 5 of these were actual finishes. 3 KO or TKOs, depending on whether you bracket around the T or put a slash after it. Dan and I will have that discussion another day off the air. 2 of them were submission victories. 2 of them ended in the first round. What was your favorite?
Lupi's rear naked choke over Elise Reed, pretty much as how I mentioned it before, because I found it hilarious.
Fair enough.
So, like, I mean, we let our arm break, but we're gonna tap to a rear naked. Like, I don't get it. So
maybe she just didn't have the fight in her anymore at that point. I don't know. You know, I can't pretend that I'm in Elise Reed's head.
What was yours?
I like Daniel Zellhuber locking up that anaconda choke in round 2. He had a tough first round. Christos Giagos had some real good success in the first round. You saw some people talking online like, maybe this is close to a 10-8 kind of thing. Probably closer to a 10-8 than the 5th round of the title fight, but still no. So whatever. But you know, again, still a tough round in the start. And I thought Giagos even carried that over pretty well into round 2, but Zellhuber was able to take advantage of a kind of a sloppy shot from Giagos. He just kind of left his neck there, and it's like, oh, I guess I'll just flip him over and go for the anaconda. It was beautiful because he turned a situation that, yes, because it was sloppiness, but also we see that front headlock all the time, and a lot of stuff doesn't really come off it. The front headlock almost basically ended the fight.
It was so fast.
It was. That's what I really was marveling at.
It was so fast. I know I had a bad view. I thought the way Giagos tapped, he was doing the Salt Bay, dropping the salt. I thought that's how he was doing it, but then when they did the replay of the other angle, I was like, oh, he didn't do that.
I didn't see it that way.
Yeah, that's how I saw it the first time. I don't have the greatest of eyes, as you know.
That's true.
So
yeah, we had a discussion about how we were going to make sure Dan and I are going to a ball game with my brothers-in-law, incidentally, in a couple weeks. And Dan's like, we got to make sure we get seats in a certain spot because I can't see the ball otherwise. And I'm like, all right, fine.
I can't.
All right, we'll figure it out, Dan. Calm down.
I can't.
But yeah, we got we got free tickets out of it, so and they're in a section Dan can see, so that'll be a good
perfect.
That's it for this weekend. We got to look ahead to the next weekend, and this is our like trial by fire right before we get a break from live fights for one weekend, just on one merciful break here. But we are going to have not just 2 major events coming up in Bellator 299 and UFC Vegas 79. You want to call it a major event, whatever. The major promotions, North American promotions events is really what I'm talking about. They're not just this weekend. They're on the same day. Usually you get staggered. I like when Bellator's on Friday and UFC is on a Saturday. I think when they go international and they got to do it earlier, at least it's a little different. So we do have Bellator starting Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, main card, which would be on Showtime, of course. Johnny Eblen defending the middleweight title against Fabian Edwards here, who is the brother of Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
Are you liking this fight? And now you're always different with Bellator.
Well, I'll tell you this. At 4 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday, college football will be occupying most of my TVs. I'll say that.
Fair enough.
But if it's a good
fight,
fight,
watch this fight though.
Johnny Evans is arguably one of the, if not the best middleweight in the world at the moment. So
one could make the case.
So,
he sparred over the last few years with Sean Strickland, and he did for each of their title fights in the last few months. So if you go over to Extreme Couture and you watch them, it's sparring, but it's,
Yeah,
you still get to watch the closest you're going to get to cross promotion.
it's true.
Of the champions.
So yeah, no, I'll probably actually tune into this one. So.
You should. I think you should watch Aaron Pico against Pedro Carvalho too. I like Pico. I'm interested to see, because he obviously had such a weird. They completely mismanaged his career to begin with, because they were trying to make him this super hype prospect. Which, okay, fine, like hype is one thing, but still should have looked out for him a little bit better in the matchmaking. Nonetheless, the cream is rising, and I want to see if he can get to the top. If he wins this fight, I bet you he gets a shot at the 145-pound title. Probably, arguably, he could have already got it, but they are in Ireland for this one. This is the reason why we're having it in the afternoon. We're going to be expecting probably a mix of the judges from the UK and the judges that frequently work for the Mohegan Tribe Commission whenever they fight at Mohegan Sun Casino. Names that we're familiar with. Should be good judging. I'm in no way worried about the scoring that we can expect here.
Yeah.
Funny thing, by the way, about Johnny Eblen.
Yeah.
He did, for the first time in his last fight, have split rounds.
Okay.
But he's never lost a round in his career.
Because he still got the majority of those rounds.
He got the majority in each of those 2 rounds, absolutely. And he's only got first round finishes and clear decision victories, where he's never lost a round. It's an interesting streak.
Yeah.
Bears witnessing. We're Bears keeping an eye on, right? Maybe I jinxed it. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. And then we've also got, like I said, UFC Vegas 79. That one starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time, the main card. So there's going to be some overlap on, the prelims and that kind of thing. You've got 4 TVs. You can put 2 college and 2 fights on.
That's not how it works.
Fair enough, fine. But the headliner here being Rafael Fiziev against Mateusz Gamrot. That one you got to watch.
You have to watch. Oh, 2 future title contenders right there.
Either one could be, sure. 155. I like this fight. It's a good fight. I'm curious to see how it plays out. I could see it end up being maybe a grappling fight that we're not going to enjoy so much when we have Fiziev on the card. We're hoping for something a little more upright, But that doesn't mean it will be a bad fight or a boring fight that way. It's just, it adds the potential that it won't be what we like to see when we see Rafael Fiziev's name.
Okay.
That's all I would say with that. Of course, it's Vegas. Nevada judges, the ones who aren't flying out to Ireland, are probably going to be there. Most of them anyway. Not worried about the judging there.
Nope.
We've got Bryce Mitchell against Dan Ige in the co-main. That's a good fight. I think it'll be interesting to see where Bryce Mitchell stands against someone like Dan Ige here, because we had a setback in Bryce Mitchell's career now. Let's see how he responds.
Yep.
I know he's got another setback. His girlfriend's ex-girlfriend killed his trees or something like that. That was a setback in his life. That was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was talking about it. It was, I mean, I don't wish ill on trees or anything like that, but that was definitely not what I expected to read last week. I'm not laughing about trees dying. That sucks. But the other fight that I did want to see, and I think this could be an interesting fight, actually. I think it actually could be a sleeper for fight of the night. I'm not saying it will be, but it's like kind of like a dark horse, like a really, really, really dark horse for sleeper fight of the night. Marina Rodriguez against Michelle Waterson Gomez.
Yeah, it's going to be a dark horse. Super dark horse.
I'm probably going out too much on a limb on that one. It's very likely that one we'll be talking about with contested rounds, but I did pick a different one as our contested rounds candidate this week, and it was Ricardo Ramos against Charles Jourdain.
Okay.
Which I think could be a good fight, but I could see that one being close.
Fair.
Anything to add, my friend?
That's it. I mean, we spoke about Usman earlier. His brother's fighting on this card.
Yes, he is. That's right. Muhammad Usman is against Jake Collier?
Yeah.
That's right.
Former middleweight Jake Collier.
Yeah, he don't look like a middleweight anymore. Not a little bit.
All right, that does it. We'll be back again Monday. We'll break down some Bellator, some UFC.
Probably all the UFC and the main card Bellator, maybe.
Yeah,
definitely the title fight for sure, if needed.
Thanks for listening.
Take care, y'all.